So the first thing that I did was I did some thumbnails and I tried out different expressions. And this one I'm happy, here I'm sad, here I'm super happy, here I'm a little worried or depressed. But I tried out different expressions to have different personalities. I also did different zoom in, zoom outs. So these, are pretty huge on the page where my face takes up pretty much everything. Here I'm zoomed out a little more. I have some of my shoulder and the button on my shirt. And here I'm zoomed out even more. So you can try different expressions, different zoom in and out. Oh, and different lighting. I put the light down low. I played around with it where, I might have it down here shining on me or from the side. Try out different options and see what gives you some nice dramatic shadows. So for this project, we're going to be using the black paper, the white charcoal pencil, the white Conte, and 2 erasers, a hard eraser and a kneaded eraser. So I've put my crosshairs on my thumbnail, and what I'm going to do now is put my crosshairs on my black paper, just super lightly. I'm holding the pencil almost parallel to the paper so that just the very tip is touching and it's a really light line. That way I can easily knock it down with an eraser later on. So now that I've done the crosshairs, I know that my face is in the top quadrant, mostly in this top right quadrant, and then it goes down just a bit under the center line for my chin. So it gives me an idea of scale for my head. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pretend that this is a regular drawing, and I'm just gonna do a really light contour line drawing. I'm gonna start with a gesture, and then I'm gonna build it through contour lines. I'm gonna be using my sighting strategies where I'm looking at the relationship between the features, dropping vertical lines, plumb lines to see where things hit, pulling horizontals, checking to see how everything lines up with each other. So here goes. I'm seeing my eyes are about here on the page, so that gives me a sort of ballpark starting point. And here goes. So I'm going to start off where I gesture in my eye. And I have an eye, an eye, and an eye. So my other one is going to be about here. And my head's on a tilt. So I know that if this is the line for my eyes, then my nose is going to be perpendicular. So I can draw a perpendicular line. And I have the axis for my face. And then I know that the bottom of my nose is going to be parallel to my eyes, my lips parallel to that, and I go from there. So here goes. Okay, so I've mapped it in. Is this accurate? No, of course it's not accurate. I'm going to have to do a lot of finessing and finagling. This is my loose gesture. I'm going to build it out as a more refined contour line drawing, but the key is that I'm going to keep it light because again, you always want to be able to just use an eraser and knock that line away. So as long as I keep it light, the drawing is super flexible. So now I've mapped in the contour line drawing and I've made it more precise. I built off of my gesture and built it up to be more accurate. I still worked very loosely and lightly, I should say, so that I can still easily erase things if I want to knock them down. And actually, I am going to want to knock down eventually most all of these lines because I'm going to be building the drawing in reverse. I'm going to look in the mirror and look for the value shapes of light, and I'm going to plug those in. And then at the moment, I have these lines to indicate dark lines, but I'm going to erase those out and have the dark shapes be built from the paper. So I'm only working the highlights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with my Conte crayon, and I'm going to look for the shapes of light, and I'm going to map those in. The harder I press with the Conte, the brighter the white will be, and then if I very delicately have it touch the paper, it's going to make a very delicate highlight. So just to get the piece going and sort of get used to the media on the page, it might be a nice idea to start off in a sort of delicate area where you're not pressing very hard. So I'm going to look at the value shape that's happening here, and I'm going to just lightly stroke in some very gentle lights. And remember that you want to work in the direction of the plane. So if the movement of something is, the sweep of this, I would make the marks move like that. Over the nose, they might move like this. So I could go in and start looking for value shapes and gently plugging in those shapes of value. And I'm going to do that throughout the piece, and then I can go back and eliminate the outlines. So you can see how I'm building the shapes of light on the face, and by doing that I'm starting to build form because I'm putting the stroke in with directional movement, a sort of cross contour movement. You can see I'm using the pencil to get this little texture that's happening on the chin. I'm leaving lots of little dark spaces of paper to come through to really emphasize those tiny shapes of dark and light. So you can see how the drawing's building. I'm only drawing the light, and I'm letting the shadows and the gradations into the dark shadows be built through the paper. So I'm going to keep working on it, and we'll see where it goes. So I'm going to stop for now, and I just want to point out that I worked the really bright large areas with the Conte crayon, and when I needed to go into small spaces, I switched to the charcoal pencil, and I also used my pencil cap eraser to do a lot of finessing. Like if I needed to slightly darken a value shape, and I had put too much media on it, too much white media on it, I could go in and sort of gently soften the area and help gradate it or slightly darken an area. I let the black paper do the work wherever I could. For example, when I look at my earring, it has highlight areas that pop up and then areas that totally disappear into the drawing. So if it disappeared, I just let it disappear into the drawing. The same with my hair. I just let the black paper do it, and I picked up some of the highlights that were happening with the white charcoal pencil. So to finish out this drawing, I would go in and I would look at the sweater and I would put in the whites in the sweater and I would just let the black paper be the black parts. And then on my tank shirt, I would maybe put a little bit of media in for a little bit of lights in some places, and then other places, most places, I would just let the paper do the work. So there it is. That's the strategy. All right, now it's your turn.